It went 13 miles through the heart of this mountain.
There were men shooting coal, there were men shoveling coal, there were men hauling coal.
They were getting off the boat at Ellis Island and they were shipping them here to do the mining. So you had a diverse group of people here in Lynch.
This whole town was built by the United States Steel Corporation solely for the coal that came out of here. And that first year, those miners mined 1 million tons of coal with picks and shovels.
The city had a whistle. And when that whistle went off, you knew that something had happened. That was the number one question, was, what happened and who was involved. And that's the time when every woman went to her knees that knew God.
Almost you could say it was a crapshoot sometimes, whether they were going to come home or not.
It was a rough time. I mean, there was one time I worked 64 straight days, 14, 15 hours a day because of geologic problems.
In the coal mine, when danger came, underground, you didn't know who was black and who was white because everybody was black with coal dust on them. And that mountain didn't care who it fell on.
How is it that when one's father died of black lung when they were 4 years old, that they would then still go into the mines themselves, knowing the danger, that was involved with it, and why they would choose to do that? Because it's about honoring our past. It's about honoring our heritage. It's about honoring our parents, our grandparents, who they were. Speaking of bones and sinews, that's the sinew that really holds so much of this area together.
So we were all tight-knit communities, all tied together by coal.
On weekends, instead of just going out of town, you went to one family's house, to another family's house. You just visited. And everywhere you went, there was food. There was always food, good food.
It was just a unique time, and you loved people. You knew they loved you.
All these people around here was employed by U.S. Steel. They thought U.S. Steel would always be here.
The decline of the coal industry has hit everybody here very hard.
And U.S. Steel failed and left. And we found out U.S. Steel was not the God we thought he was.
There was no jobs here, nowhere to turn, there was no hope, of anything good happening.
So people left in large numbers and never came back.
People get tired of trying after a while.
100 of us were on our knees before God, begging Him, many people crying out to God in literal tears, saying, God, you've got to do something different in the mountains or we're all going to quit.
And those faithful few stayed focused and kept praying.
Really started with just a couple of people. And we just started at my house. I had a double-wide trailer I lived in. And
there were people who were so broken and so poured out before God in such agony that had major impact.
But thank God, God sent us someone to help us.
I think it's important to understand that God desires to change every city. But He's looking for somebody who will believe He can.
It always takes someone somewhere to spearhead the will of God.
Finding that person whose heart is so gripped by what God desires to do in a community that nothing else matters but that.
When the vision is so powerful on the inside of you that it causes you to stay and look for and to see that vision come to pass, I mean, it's a powerful thing that God does in a person when that happens.
And on this day, Lonnie Riley and Belinda was in here trying to get her mother's stuff out of her house.
I knew Lonnie was full of energy, full of spark.
And they came home to settle her mother's estate after she passed. And the Lord spoke to Lonnie while he was here. He went back and resigned at his church.
God more or less told him, Lonnie and Belinda, it's time to go home, because home needs you.
The Lord spoke to both of us at the same time and said, that's where I want you to plant yourselves. That's where your heart should be. And it kind of took my breath.
I guess all of us kind of looked at him at first, including me, as if, does he really know what he's getting ready to tackle? Because, change doesn't come too easy in the mountains here. We kind of hold on to our traditions. And
when we first came back to Lynch, my wife and I were sitting at the table. And we held this blank piece of paper before the Lord. And we said, Lord, here's our strategy. No strategy. And whatever you write on this paper for us, it's already yes. And I went out the back door of my home, and there on the back step sat 2 boxes. The wind chill was well below 0 then. It was a cold winter. And so I picked up the boxes, took them in the house, and yelled at my wife. I said, honey, come and look at this. We opened the boxes, and there were 2 15-pound boxes of cookie dough. Cookie dough. I looked at that, and I said, honey, what in the world are we going to do with 30 pounds of cookie dough? And she said, we're going to bake cookies. So we did. We baked all those cookies, put them on paper plates, wrapped them up in aluminum foil, and put a bow on top. It was December, right? And so we had one of those Currier and Ives moments. It was snow flying, and we were walking up and down the streets, knocking on people's doors. Unemployment at that time, according to the Appalachian Regional Commission, was 53%, and we gave away those cookies. But it taught us a valuable lesson, and the lesson was this: everything God gives you is just cookie dough.
I read an article not long ago by somebody that they said the best thing that we could do in this area is basically shut it down and move away. Well, we don't feel that way.
And Lonnie talks often about that early prayer meeting when he first came back.
300 people came that day.
That time when we had the prayer gathering, we had all 3 mayors there. And when we stood together and held hands and prayed together, I thought it was the beginning of something great for the Tri-City area.
The greatest movement of God in one location I've ever seen in more than 50 years of ministry.
When you go somewhere expecting something, God does something. That's what faith is.
We really believe God can do the impossible, not only theoretically, but practically, where we are, not somewhere else, not in another part of the world, right here where we are.
You should just see the look on people's faces when Lonnie starts talking about this stuff, and he may as well be speaking some foreign language. They're like, what? Here?
But God's in the mix now. God's in the mix, and when God shows up, you'll know it.
100 years ago, people were coming here from multiple countries, and they were coming here to work in the mines. Now people are coming here from around the world, and they're coming here simply to see what God is doing.
If we will allow Him to be first and foremost, if I can repeat from the Bible, our eyes have not seen, ears have not heard what He has in store for us.
When you've seen God move in God's power, you've seen God do what only God is able to do, you've seen the impact not only on your life but on the lives of others, you can never go back to church as usual, ministry as usual. You simply can't.